Welcome to today's Explainer. Look, if you're a young professional feeling the absolutely crushing weight of your own early promise, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to take off that heavy corporate armor for a bit to look at a deeply validating psychological framework through the lens of developmental therapy. It's called the architecture of gifted grief. We're going to explore why navigating adulthood can feel so incredibly overwhelming, especially for those of us who started out with a ton of academic promise and now just feel, well, kind of stuck. As your guide today, I want you to view this not as some harsh critique, but as a really compassionate look at your own internal wiring.
So let's start with a big question. Why do simple tasks suddenly feel completely impossible? If you're a highly capable professional who, navigates complex workplace dynamics in your sleep, but then you find yourself literally paralyzed by the absolute basics of daily life, I need you to know you're not alone. There is actually a deeply logical, psychological reason why this happens, and we're going to break it all down, step by step.
You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? That single, unwashed dish just sitting in the sink. Or maybe it's that unfiled tax return looming over your entire weekend. From the outside, sure, these just look like basic chores. But for a former high achiever who's flirting with corporate burnout, avoiding these isn't just procrastination. It actually triggers a profound hidden identity crisis. Think about it. When you're used to crushing massive, complex academic or corporate milestones, failing at something like laundry doesn't just feel like a minor slip-up. It feels like a fundamental breakdown of who you are.
Which brings us to Section 1, the death of the golden child identity.
Let's rewind a bit. In school, childhood success was basically a straight line. You studied the rubric, you got the A, and boom, you won the prize. It was totally predictable. But adult reality? Yeah, not so much. You transition from that highly structured academic environment into this messy corporate world where absolutely no one hands you a syllabus for your life or your career. Adulthood is just this ambiguous web of infinite choices, and there are almost no obvious right answers. Because of this massive shift from absolute certainty to total ambiguity, a really unique identity crisis starts to emerge. Task failure suddenly morphs into identity failure. When you struggle with simple adult decisions or just daily upkeep, it starts to feel like undeniable evidence that your childhood genius label was just a complete lie. You start thinking to yourself, wait, if I'm supposedly so smart, why can't I just make a simple phone call? That perfectly explains what we're going to cover in Section 2, the complexity trap. This is a truly fascinating defense mechanism. So the complexity trap is essentially the psychological tendency of high IQ adults to deliberately choose incredibly complex problems just to avoid the simple ones. And the wild part? This happens entirely unconsciously. You might find yourself volunteering to overhaul your company's entire workflow system, which is a huge, high-stakes, difficult problem, literally just to avoid dealing with a simple, everyday task like organizing your desk or returning a routine HR email. Just look at the internal logic going on here. It's wild. If you tackle a massive, complex corporate problem and you fail, well, your excuse is simply, hey, it was hard. Internally, that actually feels emotionally safe. It protects your ego. But if you fail at a basic, simple task, like, say, making a routine doctor's appointment, the internal meaning shifts dramatically. It bypasses all your defenses and your brain screams, I am fundamentally broken. And here's the real kicker. The true grief hidden beneath all this paralysis is a profound fear of being average. Ultimately, what's really driving this complexity trap is a deep, totally unacknowledged grief. It's the terrifying subconscious fear of losing your special status. It's the fear of waking up and realizing that in the day-to-day mechanics of life, you might just be wonderfully, terrifyingly average. And that leads us directly into Section 3, analysis paralysis. Where is the one right path? Man, this is the question that constantly haunts the former gifted student. You probably find yourself obsessively searching for the single perfect answer in every single adult decision you make. You might agonize for 20 minutes over a totally simple workplace email, treating it exactly like you used to treat those childhood multiple choice tests, hunting for the one correct option. What's really happening is that this paralysis is actually your brain mourning the lost certainty of your youth. You're caught in this desperate attempt to avoid any misstep that could tarnish your high potential legacy. Basically, you're trying to apply the rigid rules of a spelling bee to the vast, gray, messy landscape of adult life. And honestly, the fear of making a wrong choice just leaves you completely frozen. We have to properly name this experience, which brings us to Section 4, the mourning of potential.
Healing from this requires walking through a few key stages. First, you have to acknowledge this gifted architecture in your brain. Second, recognize your task paralysis for what it actually is, a fear response, not some deep character flaw. Third, genuinely mourn the lost certainty of your childhood. And fourth, release the heavy burden of that high potential legacy. Actually, I want to do a quick guided reflection with you right now. Grab a piece of paper or just open a note on your phone, write down one simple task you're actively avoiding right now. Got it? Okay, now right next to it, explicitly write, avoiding this is just my brain trying to protect me. See how that shifts the weight of it?
Now that we've named it, let's fix it. Section 5, the necessary system update. To thrive moving forward, you need to build what we call a lowered expectations architecture. And hear me clearly on this. This is not an admission of failure. It is a deliberate, necessary survival strategy designed specifically for a high-performance brain that's trying to operate in a messy, low-speed world. Try implementing some simple daily habits to just normalize routine imperfection. Leave one dish in the sink overnight on purpose. I dare you. Or send a good enough internal email without proofreading it 3 times. Normalizing that routine imperfection is exactly how you free up bandwidth for the things that actually matter in your career and life. This right here is the absolute core of our explainer today. You have to, metaphorically of course, kill the version of yourself that was perfect in a classroom to save the version of yourself that needs to survive in the real world. You must consciously and compassionately let go of the flawless student you once were to protect and empower the adult you are trying to become. Letting go of that endless potential, it's not a failure. It is a vital, totally positive healing milestone. So, I'll leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought to mull over. What piece of your perfect past will you let go of today to finally step into your real life? Really think about it. Give yourself permission to be a work in progress. Lower the stakes on the mundane stuff. It is absolutely 100% okay to be average at doing the dishes. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this gives you the courage to start your very own system update today.